In the next 3 videos, we're going to look at average customer value for a series. Let's start with an overview of what we're going to calculate. Ideally, you would calculate a lifetime customer value, but you really can't do that. First off, you don't know how many more books you're going to publish. You could try to guesstimate, but really, you don't know. And the problem here is that you don't know what trends will hit the market. So you might think, hey, I'm going to write 10 books next year. And you write them to a market that was hot. Let's say reverse harem is hot right now. You say, next year I'm going to write 10 reverse harem titles. And reverse harem dies a miserable death. And those 10 books you write do nothing. So it's really hard to look forward and see how you're going to do. You also have no idea what prices are going to do, or what a program like Kindle Unlimited might do to paid sales. 5 years ago, before KU existed, I'm sure people had very different ideas of what they could or couldn't do in terms of sales. So one of the most important business lessons I ever heard, and this is from somebody who was running a professional hockey league in Europe, and they said our competition wasn't, other hockey teams. It was a night out at the movies. It was dinner at a nice restaurant. It was a play. It was the ballet. It was any other entertainment that somebody could spend their money on. And so we a lot of times as writers like to think, well, maybe our competition is they're not going to buy my book. They're going to buy Joe Smith's book instead. And really what our competition is that new movie that came out, or that TV series that somebody can binge watch on Netflix. It is other titles that might be sold, but it's also other forms of entertainment. Virtual reality takes over and people can live a story. Are they still going to pick up your book and read a story? Or maybe people are going to get so sick of technology that they will turn to books. You don't know. You also don't know who else is going to enter the market. So you may be in a niche market that nobody else is servicing, and people love that, and so they buy your books. And then you might make an offhand comment on a public forum and say, I'm doing really well in this little area. And other people are going to say, oh, I can write that. And suddenly you have 10 other people writing what you were, and if they're better than you, that could take away from your sales too. So looking too far forward is a bit dangerous. And you also don't know how the world is going to change and impact your readers. The political climate in the United States in the last 2 years has been unpleasant on all sides, I would say. Some people have escaped into reading. Some have stopped reading altogether. They've turned their attention to current events. And like I said in the first point, you don't know how many books you'll publish. You might know, look, the last 4 years I have done X and that is what I do. Life happens. You get sick, somebody you love gets sick. You just never know. So what we're going to focus on is what you know now, which is a current existing series and how that series sells when you can get book 1 into people's hands. I would argue that you should probably reassess these calculations every 6 months or so. This is what the worksheet we're going to build looks like. Over here on the left-hand side, we have the sales per title. So book 1, 500 sales. We have the list price, so how much you're charging for that title. The payout, how much you're being paid for that title as a percent of list. The net amount you're earning. Then you have the percent of people who buy book 1 who also buy that book. Now this is on average because you don't know that the 250 people who bought book 2 actually bought book 1. And you don't know that the 125 who bought book 3 actually bought book 1. But you do know that on average, for every 500 sales of book 1, you have 75 sales of book 5. We do something similar on the borrow side of the equation. So we look at total pages read for each title, and then we turn those into the equivalent of a full read. So The reason we do that is because different titles will have different assigned KNPC. And what I'm really looking at is customers who read through the series. And for that, you want to be looking at the equivalent of a unit sold. So that's why we do a full read equivalent here. And then we want to give a value to those, so I have the assumed payout of 0.0042. And then the same thing happens here where we use the full read equivalent instead of sales to calculate what percentage are reading through the series. And then the final columns here for each, G and M, take the value of a sale or the value of a read of each new customer with respect to each book. So this one here, this book 5, if you sell book 5, it's worth $4.19 to you. But this really only happens 15% of the time. People who buy book 1 get all the way to book 5 and buy it. So that $4.19 is only worth 63 cents to you on average for each new customer who buys book 1. And the same thing is happening over here in column M. Instead, we're just using the value of a full read and the percentage of people who read book 1 who read book 5. And then we want to take a weighted average of these values to figure out the average value of a new customer. And that's this 535 over here. And we're going to walk through how to do all these calculations. There are a couple other numbers in this worksheet that you're seeing here, this borrow to sales factor, this book 1 list price, the amount to gross up AMS stats. We're going to calculate those as well in a separate section. All right, in the next video, we will start the actual calculations.